Take it away, gentlemen.
Observation number 1. This particular human's dueling skills are less than skillful.
That's not true! Well, actually, kinda is.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships 2014 Round 1. Now what we actually have is Eugen Heidt of Germany versus Shin-En Huang, who is actually playing Gear. Now something that's very interesting is the fact that Eugen is playing Mermail. Now, something that you mentioned earlier is that the Forbidden and Limited list has changed quite severely for this particular event, and it did hit Mermail quite hard.
Absolutely, and I believe Eugen, he was the champion for the European Championships.
He was, yes.
And he played Mermail at that event.
Yes.
Defeating a Lightsworn deck in the final round. And it's interesting that he chose to stick with Mermails, despite the fact that for this tournament only, Mermail Abystius, largely considered the heart and soul of the deck, is limited to 1. And in addition, Abyss Sphere is semi-limited, set to 2. So there are a lot of hurdles that you have to jump through if you want to bring Mermails to this event. And Eugen decided to go with it. And in fact, other competitors did as well.
Yeah, there's a few players that are still playing Mermail, even though...
It is completely shocking to me, but that is why we want to see it so badly.
Definitely.
And taking on last year's world champion is going to be a good first test to see if the Mermail strategy actually has staying power without all of its power cards.
Definitely. I mean, the world champion is basically playing Traptrix Gear.
Yep.
Which is interesting. I mean, Gear took a big hit in the TCG list.
Yep.
Which, of course, has come over to this because they lost.
Here, so Gear is limited.
Yes, it is. But from that, he just seems to have... A few players have looked at the Traptrix engine and just kind of added it in there to see. I think it's just to try and bring out the fact that they've not got that gear.
I think for a lot of the players here, and a lot of them are running Traptrix Myrmileo, at least. In fact, it's usually just Traptrix Myrmileo, either 2 or 3 copies. I think they're anticipating a heavy presence of combo decks, like Infernity. Infernity is probably the deck I would expect to see most of in this event. Probably about a third of the people I would anticipate to play it. But what happens with Traptrix Myrmileo is that if you go first, and remember that you don't draw on your first turn anymore, so you begin with 5 cards on your first turn, Traptrix Myrmileo gets you another one out of the deck, and acts as a monster, and the card you get is generally going to be one of the better cards available. Bottomless Trap Hole, another limited card, you can get it straight out of your deck with your normal summon, and that's incredibly powerful, especially when you're dealing with a deck that needs to special summon a lot in one turn like Infernity.
Definitely, which is... basically, it's all going to be about early game. A lot of the decks are going to be about early game at the moment. So, yeah, having that Bottomless Trap Hole just ready for any wombo combos that may happen, it's going to be your best advantage.
The really interesting thing about Shin-En's deck is that he's sticking with Gear, and all 3 copies of Gear Mark II and the 1 Gear that people were playing when there were 3 copies of Gear available. It should be interesting to see what effect that has on the deck itself. He's not going to get the early game Gear into Gigant play as much as before, but he's also going to draw those Gear-Gianos, which is something that most players generally don't want to do.
Definitely not.
Shin-En has embraced it instead, so we'll see how that works out for him as the tournament progresses.
Maybe he knows something we don't know.
It's entirely possible.
Definitely.
On Eugene's side, he's running a heavy draw engine. He's got 3 copies of Reckless Greed and 3 copies of Upstart Goblin to try to thin out his deck as much as humanly possible. Now, the tricky thing with Abystius is that it's not a Sea Serpent like the rest of the level 7 Mermail monsters. So while he is going to run the Gen X Undyne Gen X controller engine to try to pitch Atlantean Dragoons, he's not going to be able to get Abystius with that. That's only going to get you Megalo or Wooling Glacia, the Elemental Lord.
So it's a pretty kind of obvious move to try and make as much draw power as possible to get that card into your hand.
You got to get that Abystius as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. And with only 1... I don't know.
I mean, he's even running Allure of Darkness at this point to get rid of Gen X controllers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because Gen X controllers taken on a different role as the Mermail deck progressed. When Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Tree, was released in Legacy of the Valiant, level 10 Synchro Monster, 3100 attack, can't be targeted by your opponent except during your main phase 2, that became a huge tool for Mermail decks that are running the Gen X and Gen X Undyne End controller is it gives them something to do with Tidal or with a stranded Abyss Megalo that's been negated by Fiendish Chain or anything like that. It's a huge synchro play, and it's amazing against Firehand and Ice Hand.
It's amazing against anything.
It's
It's just a ridiculously good card.
very good card.
Incredibly hard to get rid of. Incredibly hard to get rid of.
No hands in Shin-En's deck. We've seen a lot of Geargiad decks.
With hands. Yeah,
But
no hands with
yeah,
that.
no hands in this one, but we've seen them elsewhere.
Yeah. Now, looking below us, you can see the bar, which if you were watching the European Championships, you may recognize from there. But if you didn't happen to catch that, you may notice that there's 3 orbs underneath the names. Now, it's not best of 5, which is what most people do ask us. Each orb is 1 game. So let's say Eugen won game 1, but Shin-En won game 2. The second orb on Shin-En's side would light up, basically.
Penalty kicks.
Yeah, yeah.
Penalty
So like
kicks.
football or anything like that. Now, you also will see the name, the life points, and we're also going to be having the cards, what they're going to have in the hand, on the field, everything like that, which will be displayed on a bar where I'm currently sitting. The screen will move, it won't just cover me if I'm on screen.
And we also have a live update of all the news that's fit to hear from the World Championship and beyond. You can see that running down on the bottom. We're like a big name news corporation now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're watching on the actual Yu-Gi-Oh card website, just above us, there is a link. I believe it's just above Jerome. Basically, you will have a link that will take you to the written coverage. Please do have a look at it. It will be written by PJ Tierney, which is a colleague of ours, so do definitely have a look. But if you're on Twitch TV, don't click the link up here. It will just take you to the homepage and away from this stream.
So we basically got you covered from all angles.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's time to introduce
our
players. So
Okay.
Shin-En obviously is last year's world champion.
Yeah.
He won with Dragon Rulers in a tournament that was largely dominated by Dragon Rulers, but despite that fact, his final opponent was David Keener, actually from my hometown of Pittsburgh, who was playing Spellbooks at the time. Took him to 3 games, but Shin-En wound up victorious in the end. And as for Eugen,
Eugen was actually doing very well all the way through. He actually met Lightsworn in the finals as well. There was just a lot of things that happened with that Lightsworn deck that he was against. Now, I do believe now we are going to be starting the match very soon. So if we'd like to go over and introduce our players.
Germany.
Shin-En Huang from Taiwan.
Taiwan versus Germany in our round 1 matchup. Mermails versus Geargia with Traptrix Mirmilio. Should be a very interesting matchup, and we'll see. Well, one of the interesting things for me is going to be to see whoever wins the die roll or coin toss or whatever method they use to choose who goes first. It'll be interesting to see what choice they make. In this tournament, I feel like if I didn't know what I was playing against, and that is the case in this round most likely, I'd choose to go first and try to get as many trap cards down as I possibly can. And even if I was playing Infernity, I'd choose to go first and just combo off if possible.
Yeah.
All right, our duelists are in position.
So you can shuffle to that.
Being told.
And they're going to go ahead and get their shuffle on.
Just being told the correct procedure.
Yeah, it's different here than it is pretty much anywhere else. Take the strictest standards of shuffling and sleeve maintenance and all that sort of thing.
Definitely.
So it takes a while between rounds and for the tournament, but it's important because you have something as important as the World Championship. So you want to make sure everything is on the up and up, nothing's damaged, nobody's gaining any advantage from the sleeves.
And they are playing with those beautiful World Championship sleeves, which in the light just look amazing.
Disco ball.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we are just about underway.
Okay, I'm shuffling. You each shuffle and present your opponent. You touch your own deck. Your opponent puts your deck. Cards within sufficient range.
Some last minute instructions. Can you see what is, that's a token card, right?
I think it is.
Is that one of the
It looks
self-made
like,
ones?
Yeah, it looks like a personalized token.
So generally for big events like this, we actually have a photo booth taken around that you can take your own picture in it
Yeah.
and make a token out of it.
Make
It's
your own
very
token.
cool, very popular with a lot of people, even people that don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how cool it is.
Well, you get to be a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be summoned by Mecha Phanta Beast Dracosac.
Yes, yes you can.
And I cannot tell you how many people think that is the coolest thing ever. All right, looks like Eugen won the die roll.
See that opening Soul Charge.
Yep, he's got Soul Charge.
Genex Undyne.
Looks like an Abyss Pike, Abyss Sphere.
And I'm not quite sure what that is there. We're looking there on the screen now. It's just coming up.
Undyne, Abyss Lyn, Abyss Sphere, Soul Charge, Abyss Pike. That's a pretty solid opening hand, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anything with Gen X Undyne is going to get your engine started if you're playing the Mermail deck.
Yeah.
And he's chosen to go first. I think it's a wise move. And he starts with the Gen X Undyne. That's the dual terminal foiling on it.
Yeah.
Makes it a little difficult to see what's going on there.
But
And
still-
he's sending Atlantean Dragoons to the graveyard, which allows him to take Gen X Controller from the deck to his hand. It's a level 3 Dark Tuner, normal monster. You needed to make a bunch of Gen X specific synchros. The only one that's seen a whole lot of play is our Gen X Locomotion.
Yeah.
She's a level 9 that can steal monsters, but we're not going to see it here. In addition, because of Atlantean Dragoon's effect, he was able to pick up Atlantean Heavy Infantry. And something we're doing for this event is when there are many search effects played together at the same time, they go ahead and resolve them all first before going and shuffling their deck. Just makes things easier
Yeah,
because of our stricter shuffling procedure for
of
this.
course. A lot quicker.
So not a bad first turn so far. Gen X Controller and Atlantean Heavy Infantry add to the hand. The infantry can destroy a face-up card on the field when it's sent to the graveyard for the cost of a Water Monsters effect. And that's the same reason that Atlantean Dragoons was able to search out the Sea Serpent from the deck. It's because it was sent as the cost to Gen X Undyne's effect. Very unique cost. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any other monster with a cost quite like that that lets you just pick a water monster from your deck and send it to the graveyard.
No, it's just that one.
You've got a face-down card, Spell or Trap. That would most likely be the Abyss Sphere. You don't want to risk your Soul Charge to a Mystical Space Typhoon, of which Huang plays 2. And play is over to him. He starts with the set monster. And it appears that he's setting 3 cards and wants to shuffle them up really well before he sets them down. Oh, nope, 4 cards, just in case Eugen got an early read on them.
Wow, now what might those be?
Well, he's got a ton of traps, 15 in total. There are a number of limited power cards, Torrential Tribute, Solemn Warning, Evacuation Device, that sort of thing. There's also the one Geargia gear. That'd be nice to have. And then he has a couple of trap holes. He's got a Bottomless Trap Hole and a pair of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. No Void Trap Hole, though.
No, interesting.
Probably expecting some of the lower attack monsters from an Infernity deck when he was building it. Lava Val Chain, for example, does not have enough attack to be hit by that,
No.
but it would be hit by both Traptrix Trap Holes. Eugene's gone ahead and set another monster.
Yeah. Oh,
And Huang has the Mystical Space Typhoon. And he's played into Abyss Sphere. Abyss Sphere summons any Mermail from the deck. He picks Abyss Linda. As the chain resolves, Abyss Sphere is destroyed, and that means that Linda goes down with it. But that is the only time that her effect can be triggered, and it'll let him summon a Mermail from his deck. Any Mermail.
and are we going to see the Tears?
I don't believe he would get its effect in this case.
Probably not.
So he is
It's going
going to
out.
go
With a
for
Pike.
Abyss Pike, which he will get the effect of. Discarding the Pike in hand, that'll let him take a level 3 water monster from his deck and put it in his hand. And he's thinking about another Gen X Undyne and decides to go with it.
And there it is.
Well, that's good news for him because it gives him access to his Atlantean Marksman, which can start picking off Huang's face-down cards one by one. First choice is usually the monster because there are so few of them in the Geargia deck.
Of course, he does not know that he's against Giga yet.
Not yet. We gotta wonder what would be the worst possible thing that can happen if you blow up that face-down monster. I can't think of anything particularly bad.
No.
He could be in the
Not
Mermail
nice.
Mirror match, but I'm pretty sure that he's got a good feeling that it's not that.
Yeah.
And now he knows that it's Geargia. Shin-En is up. He has flipped Geargia armor.
He's going to be able to go and get any Geargia monster he likes.
Arsenal is generally the first search off in this particular instance.
There it is.
He needs to go ahead and clear out some of the monsters on the other side of the board. And when he's finished doing that, he can send off the Geargia arsenal to go get another Geargia. Another Geargia armor. Well, given the fact that he's shuffling right now, I may be that he does not intend to do that at the moment. Probably confident in his trap cards to help get him through another few turns of flipping that Geargia armor up and down.
He does have a lot in there. I do believe I saw a Dimensional Prison in his hand. If he's
He does. He's got a pair of them.
Yeah. Of course, he's not set that to free up his space by the look of it.
And the arsenal is added to his hand.
There is nothing worse than finally getting the spell card you need and not having a space to put it down.
That is one of the dangers of playing so many traps, as has been popular as of late. Arsenal is on field. Geargia armor takes out Abyss Pike. Arsenal takes down Undyne. And the interesting thing here will be to see what he decides to do with that arsenal.
Working out life points there.
Geargia arsenal is tributed. Special summon a Geargia from the deck. Another Geargia armor. It's easily the best choice here. He's going to wall up and see how many searches he can get before Eugen can start setting up his combos.
Now, if you look at Eugene's body language and how he's shuffling his card, he's definitely favoring that soul charge.
I don't know how safe it's going to be to play a soul charge at this point with so many trap cards.
It
left.
doesn't feel safe at all. I would be worried.
And it looks like he's decided to summon the armor in defense position. Yep. Armor 1 is set. Armor 2 is set. And Huang has a massive defensive wall. Eugen just picked up Reckless Greed. And, well, the tricky thing about Reckless Greed is you can't play it right away. You have to wait.
Yeah.
All sorts of bad things can happen in a turn while you're waiting for the prime opportunity to activate your Reckless Greed. Second Undyne is up next. He has the second controller. He plays a spread of 3 Undyne to 2 controller. Didn't draw any controllers in his opening hand, so he's able to resolve both Undynes.
I mean, the other thing about Reckless Greed is, of course, not drawing for 2 turns.
Yes.
I mean, you immediately have the cards, but if you don't get what you want, then you don't have any options.
Yeah, so you have to wait to play it, and then it cuts off your draw phases. And I think that's one of the major reasons why it has lost popularity as of late. Well, we had an Atlantean marksman sent to the graveyard for that Undyne, and it took out one of the 2 Geargia armors.
Oh, and here comes the Xe summon.
Yep, it's joined by an Abyss Lind. And that is...
Is that an Alucard?
It would probably be Alucard because he wants to pop both monsters if at all possible. But he's not going to get the opportunity because Black Horn of Heaven will negate the summon and destroy the monster. Counter trap card, it actually saw its popularity rises and falls.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Tide. But for this tournament, with a lot of Xe summons expected, I am not shocked that many of the competitors are running 2 or 3 Black Horn of Heaven. So with a blank field, Eugen is left to consider his soul charge. He's got a lot of monsters in there right now and could spend a lot of life points bringing them all back. But there are still 3 face-down cards, and he hasn't seen any of the limited cards yet. Torrential Tribute, Bottomless Trap Hole, Solemn Warning.
He's got 7,300 life points left, but he could just be greedy.
This early in the World Championship, I don't think I want to get greedy.
No.
Especially when your opponent knows that 2 of the cards in your 6th card hand are Gen X Controller.
Especially when you're sitting across from the world champion.
That's also a consideration.
Just staring you down.
Well, he's going to go
Oh, he's
for
going
it.
for it.
Soul
Wow.
Charge. But for how many? Oh, that's a big pile of monsters.
Is he really going for the full 5? Or is he going to go for 4?
It looks like he's got 4.
Wow, no,
No, he's got 5. Activate Soul Charge, targeting 5 monsters.
That is interesting.
2 Atlanteans, 1 Abyss Pike,
I was just thinking.
Gen X Undyne, Abyss Lind. And
Wow.
it's going to go through, so 5,000 points come off Eugen.
And he has dodged a bottomless trap hole.
It's 2,300 to 8,000 in favor of last year's world champion, and no bottomless trap hole. And it looks like he is going to combine all 3 of his level 3 monsters for an Xyz summon.
Very possible. He has just discarded an Atlantean.
He does have a couple of choices there. He's got Mermail Abyss Trite, the Mermail specific 3 material, rank 3 Xyz monster, but he's also got Tri-Edge Levia. It's a rather underrated card from Premium Gold
I like Tri-Edge
that can do a lot of good. It's almost like a miniature version of Felgrand.
And there goes the Torrential
Oh,
Tribute. And
it
he's
wasn't bottomless
returning the
trap
armor
hole.
tap.
It's a pair of limited cards, Torrential Tribute and Compulsory Evacuation Device.
Wow.
So Eugen essentially paid 5,000 life points to get a search off of Mermail Abyss Lind. 2 power cards are off of Huang's side, but that Geargi armor is still in his hand, and he's still got 2 cards left. All things considered, though, getting rid of 2 limited cards off of 1 5,000 point soul charge isn't that bad.
I mean, I don't know whether I'd have paid the full 5,000 just
Yeah.
to do that, but
You may be able to get away with 4,000 and go for a 2 material Xyz monster.
yeah.
But it seems to be working out so far. I mean, in times past, you paid 4,000 life points to Solemn Judgment to stop a Destiny draw. So what's 5,000 life points
Yeah.
to stop 2 cards that are limited?
Yeah. I mean, I love the card Soul Charge because you play it and then you bring out as many monsters as you can. And you just feel like going, let loose the dogs of war.
Yeah, well, why not? All right. So he's gone ahead and summoned Mermail Abyss Turd. And with its ability, discarding, looks like it is Gunned, to revive Abyss Pike. And with this Pike, he has gotten another Atlantean Marksman. So now he's got 2 level 4 monsters.
And he's shuffling with 5 piles, which is interesting.
All right, so we're going to see a rank 4 Xyz summon this time.
Yeah.
Rank 3 didn't go so well. Give us one more. It's Bahamut Shark, and he will immediately activate its effect since he can't attack anyways this turn due to Soul Charge, and that's going to bring out the Mermail Abyss Trite from the extra deck. Now, her regular ability isn't going to be useful here. It lets you retarget things, much like Cane Gorgon, but she'll still revive a Mermail when she's destroyed, and she has considerable defense points.
Yeah. What are those defense points?
I think it's 2,800.
Wow.
It's 26 or 28. And Bahamut Shark has 2,600 attack, which is enough to get past that Geargi armor. The consideration is, do I Reckless Greed right now? The answer is no. We summon Mermail Abyss Pike right now. And he's going to likely discard that Marksman that he just picked up last turn. There we go. Now, he only plays 2 copies of Marksman, so we'll have to get something different this time. He takes his, I believe that's his last Abyss Lind. I believe we've seen the first 2 already. One off of Abyss Sphere and one that he had drawn in his opening hand. So that's the 3rd one. We've seen all the Marksmen. Still got Heavy Infantry in his hand, but there aren't any face-up cards to use it with. Another thing to keep in mind is how many water monsters does he have in his graveyard?
Yeah.
That could have been one of the considerations when he decided to soul charge for 5 instead of 4. So he has got Mulan Glacia, the Elemental Lord, in his deck. Gear Armor goes down to the Marksman effect. And really, I think Eugen has to be happy that he was paired with Gear in the first round, so that's one of the best matchups you can get.
Definitely. Oh.
Dimensional Prison takes down this Trite. That's going to stop her effect from working.
And then the other attacks go through by the look of it.
Yep. Attacks from both Spike and Shark, but I had both copies of Dimensional Prison, and Shark joins Trite in the banished pile. 1,600 points of damage go through, and plays back to last year's champion. Geargiano Mark II is summoned to the field, and we can see now why he's okay with drawing them. It's going to let him get back one of the monsters that was destroyed by a Marksman. Gear Armor seems the obvious choice for this one.
There it is.
Brings it out in defensive position and flips it face down. Huang is in major rebuilding mode right now. That soul charge seems to have caught him a lot more off guard than he was expecting, having to use both of his cards at once. Probably, if he could have saved the compulsory, that would have been good for him, but he didn't know that he was going to get the Geargiano Mark III. And if you've already seen 2 armors, the chance of getting the 3rd, not so much.
Black Rose Dragon?
Yes, it looks like Black Rose Dragon.
And there's a Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare.
With Gen X Controller. And it's negated as well. And that took up his normal summon as well. It's looking to me like he's got a 2nd copy of Reckless Greed.
He's yeah, here we go.
He's going to go ahead and play the 1st one. He's already got the 2nd one in hand, which is basically the situation that you want. If you can stack them up, the draws stack up, but the skip draw phases do not.
It looks like a card was just dropped on the floor there.
Yes. Now, I believe that is... I think he's got the Mulan Glacia in there in his hand. And he's quickly checking the graveyard to see how many water monsters he has.
And I'm sure he has more than 5.
There are a lot of water monsters in that graveyard.
It's a shame that it's such an
he's picked up the Abystius, not Mulan Glacia.
Oh.
He picked up Abyss Lead and Abystius. And he summons Abystius, discarding Heavy Infantry. Now that Huang has no trap cards left on his side of the field, Eugen is free to play his combos.
Doesn't look like he has anything that he can search.
So
what we're having right here is there are no Mermails left in the deck.
Wow.
For Abystius to pick up. So Huang gets a free peek to see what else is there.
I have to activate it.
Sorry.
It's a mandatory effect, so there was no choice not to activate it there. And with the effect of Heavy Infantry, Geargiano Mark II goes down. Now the problem is he's already used his normal summon, so he can't just plop down another controller and play Leo.
And that's pretty much the reason why he's...
It does get him a wall, though, and it's in defense position. So even if we see Silent Honor Arc, it's not going to be able to absorb the Abystius.
And Abystius does have a large defense.
It's 2400, I think.
Yeah.
2400.
I mean, what's in Gear that could deal with that?
You'd probably have to use the destruction effect. Gear Gigan only clocks in at 23, but you could use Direwolf to just blast it.
Of course.
Ragna Zero has 2400 attack, but that doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Black Ship of Corn
Wow.
has
that
more
works.
attack points than Avistius.
So it would be able to get rid of it. And it looks like he's just got the Vermelio there.
He has flipped up the Geargi armor and normal summon Traptrix Myrmileo.
Getting Bottomless Trap Hole.
Bottomless Trap Hole, always a good choice.
And there's the Pile Shuffle.
That's the thing, you play all these search effect decks. You're going to have to do this a lot. Spellbooks was
Oh, Spellbooks.
searching 3 or 4 times a turn.
I bet that took forever.
I couldn't do it. I don't think I could play it in this tournament with all that shuffling. At some point, your hands just tell you, no, no more. You cannot do this.
When your hands start bleeding, that's the time to look at a new deck.
Maybe a new sleeve manufacturer as well.
Yeah. I think they're going to need replacement sleeves by the end of the day.
Well, we got plenty of them. As Huang goes into the extra deck, taking a look.
I will just take this moment to apologize for the lack of information over on the right. We're just having some technical difficulties.
You're back though. You've got Eugene's hand. He's looking at Black Ship of Corn. First, he's going to special summon the Accelerator from his Gear search.
That was from Gear Armor, I do believe.
Yes, Gear Armor search. It's Gear.
Gear.
That's the whole joke with Gear's name, is that
Yeah.
it's written with the same characters twice in a row. Because it summons 2 things from the deck. And you get an Xyz summon with Myrmileo
there's the
and
Black
the
Ship of Corn.
Accelerator for Black Ship of Corn. That's going to take Avistius off the field and inflict 1,000 damage. Lucky for Eugene, there aren't enough attack points in that Geargi armor. It's a defensive machine to take him out of the duel right now. But whatever he's going to do this turn, he has to get it past Bottomless Trap Hole. End phase Reckless Greed for 2 more cards in the 3rd Reckless Greed, but that's only useful if he gets another turn to play it.
Unfortunately, he's got a Soul Charge that he can't play.
And the Soul Charge is definitely not going to do.
It looks like this is his last turn. Unless he has something.
Now, if he had enough water monsters to discard for Abyss Lead, that would be a play. It would get Bottomless, but it'd be a play. Shin-En Huang takes no chances. Plays the turn out as if Eugene does have something to stop him. Flipping up Geargi armor. Because even if you are going to win this turn, you still have to try to set up for the future just in case this isn't the last turn of the duel.
Yeah, you don't want to go all out and then suddenly just lose everything.
Yep. And we've seen that before back in the North American WCQ. The eventual winner had an opportunity to just keep attacking with 2 monsters and decided to summon 2 more and got blown out by Torrential Tribute.
Now, there was a time during the European Championships as well where the Lightsworn player was against a guy who decided that the best course of action, even though he could have just won, was to attempt to deck out his opponent.
You only get points for wins, not for style. 3 for a win, none for a loss.
Well, the UK Nationals, talking about style, there was Tom Payne, who was also playing in the European Championships. He would, during his feature matches, pretty much turn 1, he was playing Infernity, bring out Crazy Box and use its effect. And the 2 times he did that and used its effect, he got a 1 and a 6.
Oh dear.
And lost both of those games.
That's why it's the Crazy Box.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Geargiano Mark II bringing
And there's
back.
the Gaga Cowboy.
Yep. Taking absolutely no chances. He's just going to activate Gaga Cowboy's defense position effect to inflict 800 damage and win the first duel. No chances at all. Very smart play from Huang, who has just a barrage of trap cards
Yeah.
to keep the combos off the board.
Oh, just,
Eugene had a pretty darn good opening
yeah,
for Mermails in this particular format.
yeah, he did. I think we should take a second when it pans back around there just to appreciate how beautiful those game mats are.
Yeah. There's another one too, isn't there?
There is. Based off Da Vinci's flying machine.
Hopefully we'll get to see that later.
Yeah.
These are based on Romulus and Remus.
Yes. The two wolves that founded Rome.
And this is the art for the prize card for the player who wins.
Yes, that's the one for the
So
player who
first
does win.
place, you get the card featuring this art. That's a really nice playmat.
That is
I
really
was checking
nice.
some of the social media and fan site stuff in between last night and this morning after they had seen the mat, and people are going ballistic over it. And you can see why. It's gorgeous.
Now, from an interesting one, my boss back home, he as soon as he saw the prize card, he said to me, in theory, if this was going to be a game mat, can you get me one? So
I'm lucky my phone doesn't work, or I'd probably get a whole lot of those messages. The answer is no to anybody thinking of asking me. No, I cannot.
Now you can see the orbs, one's red and one's green there, just to signify that.
Yep,
That win and
1-0
loss.
in favor of last year's world champion, looking to repeat. Something I don't think we've ever had, a repeat world champion.
No, this would be the first if he did.
We've had a lot of repeat people coming back in addition to the world champions. There's a few people who've actually qualified multiple times for the world championship. I don't think we have any this year, though.
No.
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 All right, digging into the side decks. Let's take a look, see what we've got here.
It's a nice DNA surgery there
Yep.
from Shin-En.
Be a shame if something were to happen to your ability to Xyz summon or synchro summon. I don't think Leo is Aqua. I don't think Gen X controller is Aqua either, so DNA surgery could... Oh, I'm thinking Rivalry of Warlords.
Yeah, you
Never
are.
mind. Never mind. Disregard. Deep Dark Trap Hole, on the other hand, would be a perfect card to have. He can
Yeah.
search it out with his Traptrix Mirrorleos. And there are plenty, well, there's not as many level 5+ monsters as there would be if there were 3 Mermail Bestias, but there still are a number of things that you would want to banish with that Deep Dark Trap Hole. Tidal, Dragon Ruler
Yeah.
of Waterfalls, for example, something
don't want that
that we
hitting
did
the
not
field.
see in the first duel, and Wang should count his lucky stars that he didn't, because that's one of the things that powers the Mermail deck through large walls of trap cards. Not on the Mermail side.
We got more spell and trap removal of Mystical Space Typhoons at 3 in the side deck, which we're probably going to see because of that massive back row that
Yep.
just Shin-En was taunting him with. Some Max C's, which we may see. More Black Corn of Heaven.
Yeah, maybe a Black Horn of Heaven or two. I'm not a super fan of Maxi against Girgia, since they can just stop right there
Yeah.
and flip all their monsters back down and just come at you again next turn. Like, unless you're buying yourself a turn that you are going to win the game on, I don't know how much Maxi really helps you in that one.
It's true. It's true.
Looks like side decking was pretty quick, though.
Yeah.
You get a maximum of 3 minutes to be ready for the next game, and they didn't take anywhere near that long.
Yeah.
All right, it is Eugene's choice whether to go first or second. And it looks like he's forcing Lang to go first this time.
Although there is the Upstart Goblin in hand, which is going to help with the missed draw.
Yep, 1 card deeper. Upstart Goblin is the first play. Eugen gains 1,000 life points, and Huang gets 1 card deeper into his deck. And that was a good one to draw. It's Traptrix Mirrorleo, and now he's going to go and start building up that wall of trap cards with a trap hole.
I'm calling Bottomless Trap Hole now.
It's usually the first search you get,
Yep, there
unless
it
you
is.
already have it in your hand. I have seen somebody try to bluff that they already had Bottomless Trap Hole by just going and fetching Void Trap Hole. It didn't work. Didn't fall for it. Summoned an 1800 monster, didn't care. Looks like that's going to be it for the search effects for now. taking a peek at Huang's hand. He does not have quite as formidable of a trap presence this time as he did last time, but 3 is still pretty good.
There's definitely a bottomless trap hole there. That's been telegraphed.
Just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Whole world's seen it at this point. Now it looks like Eugene's got Allure of Darkness in his hand.
So it looks like he's got...
And Mulan Glacia. Mermail Abyss Pike is his first summon. And he discards... that's an Abyss Lind. It's a little hard to tell with the ultimate rares, but it's Mermail. So with the Mulan Glacia in hand, I suspect his play is going to be to try to get to 5 so he can get it out of his hand.
Yeah. And as if ultimate rares weren't hard enough to see in this this angle, there's a dual terminal.
I don't know how useful the effect of Mulan Glacia is going to be against Huang, though, since he just sets every card he possibly can at the first moment. There is no Heavy Storm, so he can do that without too much fear, unless Eugene sided in his Malevolent Catastrophes, which he does have a pair of. Pike brings out Undying to the hand. In an early test of Eugene's Resolve, he decides whether or not to crash his 1600 attack monster into his opponent's. He decides to go for it. No trap card interference. Very smart. No need to burn a trap card protecting Myrmidon when you've got far more important cards in the deck like Geargi Armor.
There's that Mystical Space Typhoon. Oh, and Mystical Space Typhoon hits. Mystical Space Typhoon.
On the end phase, he takes out Eugene's Mystical Space Typhoon before he has a chance to use it, and has the Geargi Gear, the one-off. Things are looking pretty good for Shin-En Huang right now. Geargi Gear summons 2 Geargianos from your deck. Right now there are only 2. There's Geargiano and Geargiano Mark II. Then it increases their levels by 1 permanently, as long as they're face up on the field.
So here comes a rank 4.
Yep. In this situation, the first play is generally a Gear Gigant, so you can start getting the rest of your deck rolling. And I feel like Huang will probably play with a little less fear of Eugene's face-down cards this time, since he saw Reckless Greed and Multiples and Abyss Sphere. So he knows there's probably not that much actual defense. It's just cards to help get him to other cards.
And to be fair, looking at his trap list, that's pretty much correct. The only thing that he's got there is Bottomless Trap Hole and Torrential Tribute.
Second Upstart Goblin for Huang. And an Xyz summon. Geargian X is the call. And a Sided in the Black Horn of Heaven takes down the machine. Barring, of course, a Wiretap, which could be down. Huang plays a pair.
Nope.
On the other hand, you could really just let this go.
Yeah.
I don't see any really compelling reason to stop it, because you got all of that for free.
Pretty much, yeah. You know what's he got? He's got the armor in his hand. So he can pretty much just set it up so he can search it all. Picking up his side deck.
Trying to take a look for his extra deck, but went a little too far off to the side.
Like, oh no. Oh, I've gone too far.
But in the end, it didn't really matter. And Geargiano Mark II is the normal summon for the turn, bringing back Geargiano Mark II. At this point, I guess Eugene's just bluffing a response. He doesn't have anything to play with. Mulan Glacia, Allure of Darkness, and the Undying.
Unless he put the Max C in his deck, but evidently not, otherwise he would have done it by now. And there's the Wind-Up Zenmine.
Huang takes back 1,000 of those life points from Upstart Goblin, and then Xyz summons Wind-Up Zenmines. Excellent defensive wall, but actually Eugene has the negation, the monster negation card he's playing, Breakthrough Skill, is actually the perfect card for this particular scenario.
Yeah.
He hasn't got it yet, though. First off is Gen X Undying. Undyne sends Dragoons to the graveyard. Controller to hand, and then a further search for Dragoons results in Atlantean Marksman coming to the hand as well.
I'm glad that you can tell that that's what that is. Max rarity, great for players hell on coverage.
Yep. It's a dual terminal controller too, but it's the only normal monster in the deck, so
Yeah.
there's nothing else that can be. He's taking a look at that allure, trying to decide whether or not he wants to save the controller for a synchro play or allure it now. I think the play is allure it now.
Yeah.
You've got Mulan Glacier in your hand, allure it now. And he does so. Picking up Soul Charge and an Upstart Goblin of his own. Controller makes its exit. And Heidt goes one card deeper, tying the game up at 9,000 apiece.
It's always fun to watch pro players play, because you see them shuffle their hands maybe 100 times in a match. And I feel that when you're playing a game and you start to shuffle your hand, you think, this is when I've made it. This is me being a pro player.
For me, it's more of I'm paying too much attention to the actual game, not really noticing what my hands are doing.
Yeah. That's probably why the shuffling.
I kind of want to ask, though,
Yeah.
what is it with the shuffling? I know I do it too, but it's kind of compulsive rather than something that I do
the same
regularly.
thing. I don't... It's like I'm sat there in the game watching my opponent play, and it's like I don't know what to do with my hands. Just...
Eugen does. It's play Soul Charge for 1 on Mermail Abyss Lind.
Okay. Shin-En, just, is that...
It looks like he's got
C?
Max C. I think that's what that is. Gyugi Armor Max C. Not a bad hand.
Now, Maxi is always a great play when you you're about to think they're about to kick off, because it just makes them stop and think, do I really want to give my opponent that many cards?
The interesting thing about Height's hand, though, is that he can actually stop here, and he won't be in that bad of a position.
Yeah.
And that is what he opts to do. Huang is up, having drawn exactly 1 card from Max C. And he gets to his 3rd Upstart Goblin. Can't really go any better than that.
And that's a really nice rarity there as well.
He changes Zen Mines to attack position. And attacks Gen X Undyne. And you can see Heidt just counting the cards in his hand. Or in the graveyard, rather. How many waters have I got? How many waters have I got? Huang still has 1 card in hand. And it looks from here that Eugen is considering the dreaded blind MST.
Yeah.
Something that was, well, not present as much when Artifact Moraltech was not limited, as it is in this competition. But without any artifacts that you might actually hit, why not? Pick off 1, pick off another with the Marksman.
I do believe there's just 1 deck playing artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the 1.
I think people saw the fact that Moraltech was to 1 and just thought, no.
Maybe the artifacts weren't as worth it.
I mean, even just splashing a Moraltech might be nice.
You could do 1 and maybe a pair of Sanctums. I don't think I'd run the full 3 Sanctums for 1 Moraltech.
No.
MST takes out the newest set. And compulsory evacuation device is chained to put that Mermail Abyss Lind back in the hand. Not the worst result.
It could have been worse.
Oh,
Although there is
set
now...
you back a turn.
And he's favoring that Soul Charge again.
Now he's gotten plenty of free life points from those Upstart Goblins. Enough to pay for both Soul Charges.
Yeah.
I think he's counting out right now the sequence of plays that he could possibly do with the Mermail Abyss Pike in his graveyard. Trying to come up with a chain of searches. First, he discards Atlantean Marksman and Mermail Abyssland to activate the effect of Mermail Abyss Megalo, summoning it to the field. It's summoned, and now a whole bunch of effects activate at once, both Megalos and Marksman.
And I do believe that is 5 water monsters as well.
He gets a search of an Abyss hyphen, the word Abyss with a hyphen at the end, Speller Trap. He only got one, which is the Abyss Sphere. And he also gets to target and destroy a face-down card on Huang's side of the field. Now, he needs to choose the target for that before Huang responds. Unsurprisingly, it's the bottomless trap hole that's been there since the beginning of the game. Next up is Mulan Glacia. Now the danger here is that Huang has that Zen Mines, and he has the ability on his turn to crash it into Mulan Glacia, and then in the end phase destroy Mulan Glacia and force Eugen to skip his next battle phase. And that's not something you really want to give up unless it's for Soul Charge in a Mermail deck.
Oh, well, there's the Soul Charge.
And speaking of, he's probably going to try to get rid of that Girgi armor as well. He's targeting 1, 2, 3, 4 monsters. That is Pike, Dragoons, Abysslinda, and Gen X Undyne. That'll give him a rank 4 and a rank 3. I'd say it's well worth the 4,000 points. It's well worth the loss of Megalo as well to that bottomless trap hole, because it means that you got this play through.
Yeah.
And the two don't even compare.
Oh, wow. There's the 101.
Silent
That was
Honor Arc
definitely going to do it.
is Xyz summoned. Both materials are detached to absorb the Zen Mines, taking it out of play. Next up, we get a search because it's a water monster. That means he gets to search for Atlantean Dragoons again.
This game going much better for Eugen.
It looked pretty good off of Huang's starting hand, but he managed to take out all of the trap cards and still have some gas left.
That's what you'd expect from the European champion.
Yep. Atlantean Heavy Infantry is the card search for Dragoons. You have to... It's amazing the absolute confidence you have to bring Mermail to this event with one of its best cards down to 1. But he's playing it extremely well.
I guess it's just one of those decks that when it's not so... I don't want to use the word easy, but easy to play, then you really need to know how to play it to pull off things like this.
Ghost Trick Alucard's next, and that is going to eliminate Girgi Agir, leaving Shin-En Huang with nothing except the top card of his deck.
Oh, wow. And here it comes. Almost scared to see it.
He's got plenty of traps in his deck that can actually get him out of this situation.
He also still has plenty of life points.
Yep, 9,000, thanks to
enough
the
to...
one Upstart Goblin. And we got a sneak peek of that. It looked like a Fiendish Chain. He's got 2 of them in his main deck.
It's being chained on the 2800 attack.
Yep, save as many life points as you can, though it would also be a valid play to chain the Silent Honor Arc to disable its ability to protect itself.
Yeah.
And it looks like Eugene's considering a response to the chain. Decides against it. Direct attacks from Alucard and Silent Honor Arc Falwell. We've already seen the Girgi Agir, so there are no more 1-card rank 4s.
Yeah.
No play for Huang.
No more Giga-Ramas still.
Yeah, it's all 3 of them gone, isn't it?
Doing really well. But that's what I found from him when he was playing in the final as well. He'd just make sure that his opponent had no answers.
Yes. I remember the Curry Bandit
Yeah.
and his breakthrough skill constantly on the Curry Bandit. Mermail Abyssturg is summoned from the deck with the Abyss Sphere that he got from that Megalo last time around. And he discards the heavy infantry to it. And that will take out the Fiendish Chain.
I mean, just take a look at that field there,
That is a significant number of attack points.
as opposed to what we have there.
And it's
So
not
it's
even going to
just-
be that as soon as the heavy infantry resolves.
Yeah. Look at heavy infantry there.
You never know, though. We've seen stranger things happen. Games that seem to be completely one-sided can turn on a dime.
Definitely.
And Huang does have a couple of soul charges in his deck. So he could pay 2,000 to get an Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. But that's only if he drew the soul charge.
He did. There's the soul charge. But unfortunately, he's
opts to
only on
concede.
600 life points.
Yep.
So he can't even play it.
With only, that's right, the extra attack from Abyssturg in the battle phase got him down low enough to make soul charge a non-issue.
I mean, that's the problem with soul charge, is that you need to have life points.
Yep.
It's a very optional card in the way that Pot of Greed is optional because you need to have cards in your deck.
But, I mean, there's a much bigger focus on life points now than there ever has been. There's a
Yeah.
lot of early aggression just to try to get people out of the range that they can do those 4-card and 5-card soul charge plays. And with Mermail, I mean, that's the perfect deck to do it. It's all aggression all the time.
Definitely.
Search out all your big guys, throw them on the field, go to town. The problem is when they get you with their guys before you can get yours out.
Yeah.
You can see right there, soul charge is a huge part of the Mermail deck.
And it's two aggressive decks that have taken a hit. And they still seem to play out quite well.
Yeah, it's working out a lot better than I expected it to.
Yeah.
Especially after, like, Eugene's starting hand was not that great. He had mismatched draw cards, Moon Glacier that he couldn't summon for most of the game. But all's well that ends well. And that one ended well for Eugen Heidt, who pulls even in the match 1-1.
So you'll be starting.
Have a good bit of banter there.
Yep, they're deciding who's going to start. You do that after side decking, but before anybody has drawn their cards. And that actually gives an extra advantage to the player who lost the previous game, because side decking so many times is different depending on whether you're going first or second.
Yeah.
And now that the rules have changed, that you don't draw during your first draw phase, it's an actual choice. It's a choice that didn't exist before. So if you're the opponent, you don't know whether you're going to be going first or second.
Yeah.
You can infer based on what deck your opponent is playing, which way they prefer to go. But if you're building, a truly great deck, something that you really intend to win the championships, you should be able to win either way. And use it as another mind game against your opponent to see if they've sided wrong.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know if anybody remembers from the European Championship, I have a little thing for shuffling. And I really do enjoy a good shuffle. Now, if you look at Shin-En Huang's shuffle there, he shuffled with 7 piles, and that's the sweet number for power shuffling. Definitely.
I use 7 all the time.
So this means he means business.
Well,
That's what I'm taking from
no
that.
more of this 5-pile nonsense. We're pushing it to 7.
And just waiting there so I could get the feedback, but it doesn't look like a massively great opening hand for Eugen there.
All right.
There's the Upstart Goblin to maybe get out of it, but 2 soul charges in your opening hand with not much options for it.
Well, the other 2 cards are very good opening cards, though. Abyss Linda is a great set on the first turn,
Yeah.
and Blackborn of Heaven is great to have anytime before your opponent has Xyz summoned.
Let's have a look
After
at
that, not so much.
Shin's hand there. Gear, Upstart Goblin.
He's open with the Gear again. Starts with Upstart Goblin. 9,000 all.
That's a set Abyssland and a Black Horn of Heaven.
And he's setting a big back row once again. 4 face-down cards. One of them is a Mystical Space Typhoon.
He has got a Gear Accelerator in hand, but that doesn't help him much with no other cards.
Well, he's got the Gear face down. So at the end of this turn, things are going to happen.
No.
Trick is, do you want to go aggressive this early if you're the Mermail player and your only real monster is the
Wow.
Abyssland? Now, it seems he's picked up
Marksman and Detest.
Marksman and Abystius. Ooh, not bad.
Set face down there.
But
Shin's
better
got-
on Shin-En Wang's side.
He's got a debunk, which he's just played.
Yep. Debunk takes out the Abystius and banishes it, but the Marksman effect still activates and takes out a Black Horn of Heaven. And once again, Eugen is left wondering whether or not he should attack with the Abyssland. And he decides not to. In the end phase, Mystical Space Typhoon destroys Black Horn of Heaven, and Gear is flipped. And once again, Shin-En Wang is set up for a rank 4 Xyz summon. The problem with having 2 soul charges when one of your best monsters is currently banished is that it gets souls, but it doesn't get them from that far away.
No. It's not going near the banished pile, which I like to think of as the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, it could be that.
It's definitely not the overlay network.
No, it's not that. That's on Shin-En Wang's side of the field. At least it will be once he gets around to his main phase. He's picked up a soul charge. And he's combining his monsters to Xyz summon Gear-Giganex. Attaching a Gear-Giano. For Gear Accelerator. That is the aggressive option. You start with the Accelerator. Oh, but he does not go to his battle phase. He goes straight for the Gear Armor. Special summons Gear Accelerator and goes for a second rank 4 monster.
Which we'd expect to be another Gigatex.
Nope, this time
No.
it's Abyss Dweller because he knows his opponent is Mermail and needs to stop effects like Mermail Abyssland and all the Atlanteans. 1700 attack, Abyss Dweller takes down Mermail Abyssland, but thanks to Dweller's effect, she cannot activate. And 2300 points direct from the Gigant. Leaves the score at 9,067, and Wang sets another card.
Which there is Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare.
Not good, considering the only way that Heidt is going to be summoning is by a special summon. He's got matching monsters,
And he's soul charging.
Abyssland and Marksman. Problem is he can only play 1 soul charge per turn. And if he passes this turn with an empty field, he's not going to make it through the next one.
No.
2 level 3 monsters are combined, and he picks up Equipped Engineer.
Yeah. Interesting.
That is a very smart play here, because he does not have any need to use its effect right now. He can safely go ahead and attack the Abyss Dweller, and then after this turn is over, so is the threat of Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare. He plays it completely safe, though, not wanting to risk Dimensional Prison either.
Especially with the bluff of setting a soul charge.
Yep. Ends with 2 face-down spell or trap cards. Huang goes ahead and detaches his Gear Mark II from the Gigant to add that same one back to his hand. Normal summoning it, he brings out Gear and combines those 2 for Tempo, the Percussion Djinn. Tempo has the ability to eliminate Xyz materials from the other side of the field and increase its own attack, or the attack of any of the other Djinn Xyz monsters. But Black Horn of Heaven takes him down before he can take off Engineer's Xyz materials. That gives Heidt 2 free turns of no damage. This one and presumably the next one. But after that, the beats are back on.
There is that soul charge there in Shin-En Huang's hand.
He's going to go ahead and play it. Bringing back 1, 2, 3. That's Geargiano, Geargi Accelerator, and Geargi Arsenal.
We're doing very well at not getting tongue-tied.
Geargi Arsenal is tributed to bring out Geargi Armor. And it looks like he's going to be done with the shuffling for this turn.
With the sweet 7 pounds.
Seven-pile disco shuffle.
Yes. Just imagine the Bee Gees playing.
I wonder if we could get those on that disco party van that was by the hotel.
Just the Bee Gees? The
Oh,
actual
the
Bee Gees,
Bee
or
Gees
just play the
and
music?
The card sleeves.
Yeah.
Just put them up all over the place. Because you have a disco ball and disco ball card sleeves.
Just get a torch and...
Discoception. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Geargiano's effect is activated. He tributes it to bring back the Geargi Arsenal. And then Geargi Arsenal and Geargi Accelerator are combined for Black Ship of Corn, which sends things to the graveyard. It doesn't destroy them. So it is the one thing the Mech-Whipped Engineer isn't going to help against.
And I do believe that that is it.
Well, he can't attack because
No, he
of Soul
can't,
Charge.
because of Soul Charge. I always forget that about a Soul Charge.
A lot of people do and try it
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Fortunately, their opponents generally remind them that,
You can't
do it this
attack
turn.
me today.
I get another draw.
Today is not the day.
Eugene's down to 5,700 with the 17, 21, and 23 on the field right now. If he passes with nothing else, that'll be it. He draws Allure of Darkness and has to blind Allure into nothing. He didn't get a controller, and that'll do it. Shin-En Huang defeats Eugen Heidt
Yeah.
in his comeback campaign, 1-0. Well,
Now that was an interesting...
that was very interesting. I
Yeah.
was surprised by what we saw from the Mermail deck, actually. It worked way better than I had ever expected it to, and even though it didn't pull through in the end, we got a taste of what the deck really can do
It's a very
once
good
it gets
contender.
running.
I mean, I'd like to see what Moss Albury has done as well, because he's also playing the same deck.
Yes, there are a few people playing the same deck.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's only 2 in the main event and 1 in the Dragon Duel that are also playing.
Yeah, I think that's
all from
correct.
Germany and Switzerland. They're all playing Mermail and a couple more gig here. Now, what just there? Wow, I'm flabbergasted. The fact that I've come to a place where there's so much restriction on Mermail and Geargier, and the first round we see Mermail and Geargier, not only by just anybody, but by the European Championship and the World Champion, just straight away.
The great thing about Geargi is that it's a very resilient deck. It can play defense, it can play offense. Geargi Armor is one of the best monsters in the game. It's 1900 defense, not a lot of things that are commonly played can get past it. It's very good against Fire Hand and Ice Hand.
Yeah.
Which you got to expect people to play at the World Championships, since they're 2 of the best cards that are currently legal. So the ability to switch back and forth between defending yourself from attacks and setting a large number of trap cards, and then switch over into the aggressive beatdown mode with the Gear Giggins and Black Ship of Corn to remove things, and Abyss Dweller to shut down effects like the hands before they can actually mess with you. That's, even without being able to special summon as much as you want from your deck, that was always good. That was still a deck that was winning. It won a YCS out here. San Pedigo came over back in November 2013,
Yeah, I think so.
and took the entire tournament that was filled with Dragon Rulers with a Geargia deck specifically designed to beat Dragon Rulers.
Yeah.
So there's really no limit to what you can do with it. And in addition to defense and offense and all of that, its monsters, its best monsters, are level 4. And rank 4 monsters are widely agreed upon to be the most useful ones to have at the moment, between Evil Swarm Exciton Knight to even up a game that's not in your favor, Abyss Dweller, Ragna Zero, if anybody's using attack pumps. Geargigan X itself is an incredibly good card, as we saw right there in those last 2 games. So Geargia, it's definitely, well, I was expecting to see it, not as much as I was expecting Inferni, but That is something I expected to see.
Yeah.
Not so much Mermail, though, but I was really impressed, and I'm interested to see what the guys over on stage have to say about it once we're through.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah, I think we're going to be heading on over to the stage now, to our analyst desk.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Rob and Jerome. Thank you so much for that commentary. An hour of talking. That's pretty impressive, gentlemen. So we're actually going to throw it over to our analysts so they can talk about what you guys just saw. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going? That was a really action-packed first duel for the World Championships. I was not expecting to see Mermails in this tournament. As soon as we got the deck list, we actually sat here and was thinking, why would you make this decision with all the limitations? But I came quite clear in the first duel with the very first opening play that Eugen make. Do you want to give us some insight to that?
Yeah, so we came into this with one big question, which was why Mermails? And then we had a second question that came up fairly soon, which was like, why the heavy early emphasis on Atlantean heavy infantry? And as we were looking at the play patterns that were going on, we're sort of convinced at this point that one of the big strengths of the Mermail deck in this tournament is its potential for defense. And the play that we were envisioning that we noticed Eugen sort of gravitating towards early on when he didn't know that he was playing against Geargia was to have either an Abyssphere or an Abyssland available so that when a major OTK deck, a combo-driven deck like Infernity's attacks into the Abyssland, he can drop Abyss Pike and then use its effect to pitch the heavy infantry, break up a potential OTK, and then load up with momentum for a title, which we actually never saw in that entire match, I think.
No, that's right.
But it sets up his soul charges, all of his recursive plays. So we think that's one of the big reasons why several players in this tournament are running Mermails.
Jarrell, what are your thoughts on Mermails for the World Championships this year?
I was very surprised also when I looked at the deck list with you in the beginning with Jason. It just shows his sheer confidence. It shows that he has the ability to adapt even when the Forbidden and Limited list deterred away from the Mermail idea and the theory. The Forbidden and Limited list targeted more Giagias, more Infernities, and Bujin to some degree. And even so, he decided to stay consistent with something that he's used to, consistent with something that he knows that, as Jason said just now, it can go against the meta, it can go against the OTK, you know?
Yeah, definitely there. That game one, so let's talk about some of the crazy things that happened in that. The 5 monster soul charge that everyone dreaded on the release of that card.
And again, like that soul charge for 5 monsters was possible because he was able to Gen X Undine into Dragoons, into the heavy infantry, using that play pattern. Didn't work out in game 1, but in game 2, obviously worked out very, very well for him. This entire matchup, at least from Eugen's side, was entirely about soul charge.
Yeah, agreed. We saw all of the really big plays coming off of soul charges. Even when he ran 5 monsters into the trap that took his board out, he still managed to make quite a comeback into that, and it caught Shin-En off guard completely. I was actually surprised. I thought the game was over right then when he went, pay all my life points and lose everything.
There were some other like rough moments for Eugen in game 1 too. There was a moment where you pointed out that he had a Abyssphere set with an Abyssland already face down on the field, in which case, if Huang had pressed on him, he would have lost the effect of one of the Abysslands. I don't think it actually ended up happening, because Huang wasn't able to press on him in that immediate moment, but that was definitely a concern. That was very interesting to see Eugen resort to that.
It was very satisfying to see that the Giagia player, Shin-En, even though he went through the soul charge with the Torrential, even though the Mermail had plays and plays for many more turns and turns, he was still able to stay in a calm state. And that's what Giagia gives the player that's piloting it. Even when I played it, it gives you the sheer control that you need, especially going against the Mermail deck, when it's deemed already that Mermail's has a very, very, very good matchup against the Giagia player.
Yeah, looking at the deck lists, we were pretty much certain we knew what the roles of each player was going to be, which if they wanted to go first or second. In game one, Eugen won the role, chooses to go first. In game two, when he lost that game, he chose to go second.
Yeah.
But looking at the cards that he's playing, he's, for example, playing 2 marksmen and 2 infantry, giving him a lot of, I want to react to my opponent.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to make play cards so I can destroy them whilst doing Mermail things.
We're of the belief that Eugen largely had to play first when he didn't know what his matchup was. Again, because if he was up against Infernities, he needs that extra layer of defense. He needs that extra time more than he needs that extra card over his opponent. Once he knew what was going on, he went to play second. And also along those notes, just going back to Huang's deck, we were running some numbers earlier on, and we were trying to figure out whether Huang would want to go first or second. And I think we still came to the conclusion he'd want to go... No.
Huang first.
Yeah, he would want to go first, because we were looking at the numbers after we initially thought he might prefer to go second in some contexts, and we were noticing that because he plays triple Traptrix Myrmilio, he has like a total of 10 cards that can create ideal openings. He has the 3 Myrmilio, the 3 Geargarmer, the 3 Gearg Arsenal, and of course the limited to 1 Geargagear. And like any one of those 10 cards is quite good on an opening turn. And one of the interesting things that we saw was, I can't remember if it was game 2, we watched Huang open with Traptrix Myrmilio. He did not make the choice to go first, but because he had the Myrmilio, he was able to search his 6th card and put up that like wall-style back row, which was pretty huge. So we feel like he's optimized his deck to be able to go first, again, for this big Inferni matchup, which is the #1 thing people have been anticipating in this tournament.
Yeah.
We just also have to keep in mind that the Geargear deck was not a regular deck. The Geargear deck was mixed with Traptrix, and that in itself is it's a positive sign, because the access to all the bottomless trap holes you need, the Traptrix Nightmare, you need access to all of those cards.
They all do very specific things, so you really want to see like a large variety of them.
Yes.
It's totally true.
Jason, you got some actual numbers here, because we were figuring out, would I go first or second with this deck?
Yeah, that's true. I just sat here and talked about the numbers, though giving you the numbers. So we were sketching out some various scenarios, and if Huang goes first, then he has of those 10 cards, he has an 81.5% chance of opening with at least one of them, which is exceptionally strong. That means in slightly more out of 4 of his 5 games, he's going to hit something that we personally consider at the panel to be an ideal opening. Whereas if he's going to go second, the numbers only get boosted to 87.3%, which isn't that much of a difference, really.
No, I'll happily sacrifice that small percentage just to
not lose to Infernities on turn 1, basically.
Yeah, to sit there and just pick up your cards and go, oh, yeah, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Duel, do you have any more notes about that matchup?
I was just highly, highly satisfied with the way Shin-En played. Like, even though the Mermail player opened first with Undan, because I took various notes, and to have Undan first in this event, yet alone when you're fearing the Infernity matchup like we just spoke about, the possible Geargear deck, you feel very comfortable, you know? And then just to ditch the Dragoon, it's just...
Round 1, game 1, playing against the reigning European champion, you don't want to see Genix Undine turn 1. No. That's totally legit. That must have been sort of, well, maybe when you're the world champion, that's not terrifying, but that's a big play you really would hope to avoid.
and then that move follow up with Shin-En setting the Geargear armor according to my notes, and then flipping it. So both of them had the best possible opening. So the match was very balanced and very fair, nonetheless.
They both came out strong, but game 1 was very swingy for Eugen. We definitely saw him hit that big opening. He wasn't up against an early game blowout, so that was good. And we also saw him catch some major luck when he ripped the marksman when he needed it. What was the second top deck he made?
The second Reckless.
Yeah.
I think.
No, it was the second Soul Charge, I think. No, it was the second Soul Charge.
It was the Reckless on the Reckless.
He made it was Reckless and a Reckless. We saw a lot of amazing top decks out of Eugen's deck, but at the same time we also saw the double Abyssal stuff. I mean, it was not all roses for him. It was a little bit up and down.
I was very satisfied to see Shin-En playing Black Ship of Corn,
Yeah.
Because that opened a lot of doors, and that comboed very well with Gaga Cowboy.
Oh, there was...
and that came up later from the other perspective. You can point that one out.
In game 2, where Eugen was able to take the game away, Eugen's not actually playing Black Ship of Corn, and Shin-En got punished for leaving his wind-up Zen Mines in attack mode. Because had he had it in defense mode, there was no way Eugen was getting through that turn.
Yeah, Eugen was able to get through him with that turn off another big Soul Charge play, where he played the Mulan Glacia, the Elemental Lord, and then Soul Charge for, was it 4 total? 3 or 4? Enough to get him 4 Xyz materials on the field to make Alucard with Undine and his Lind, and 2 level 4s for number 101 Silent Honor Arc, which is what let him get through the Zen Mines that turn. If the Zen Mines hadn't been in attack position, he would not have had the Black Ship of Corn to be able to power through it. Would that have made a huge difference? Maybe not. Huang maybe would have seen an extra turn.
It was a lot of XP monsters.
One more extra turn can be anything, especially in a tournament like this.
Yeah, it could have been
everything.
Dark Hole or anything, really.
Yeah. But he played the Zen Mines to attack position, and it cost him.
Hello, gentlemen. I was just informed that highlights 1 through 10 are available for you guys right now. So we're going to roll that clip and have you guys talk about it.
Fantastic.
Let's see what we got.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
So that was highlight 1 with the Gen X Undine opening.
Gives you so many options on turn 1.
Yeah, there was that Undine pull that got him the heavy infantry. Opened up strong.
Yeah. It's just giving him so much. And we actually sat here and went, oh, he's going to get title, right? Yeah. And we're just like looking around for a while going, what's going on? What train of thought is going on through Eugen?
We were like, he's got no fuel for the title, but he has a back row, like empty back row, so he might want to establish that infrastructure, and that's not at all what he did. Of course, he was building infrastructure for the Soul Charge instead.
Which, it kind of backfired, but at the same time, he was able to make that Bahamut Shark and the Abyss Trite. Unfortunately, there was the 2 dimensional prisons to take him out, but he had a very solid backup plan for when that... his field got blown out.
Yeah.
Even with, how did you feel about the Mystical Space Typhoon from Shin-En to the set Abyss Spear? Do you think that was too premature? Because that is highlight number 2.
Are we gonna throw to the highlight?
Yep.
There we go.
So. Yeah, here we go. You see, this is a opportunity where, because of that Mystical Space Typhoon, Eugen could have been punished for having that extra Abyss Lind down quite heavily, losing the effect of it and putting him even further behind of a Gear armor that has already been flipped. Is threatening to be flipped again next turn.
Didn't end up happening that way, if I remember correctly. Huang blind spaced the other card, right?
No, he hit the, was it Abyss Sphere? I'm pretty sure.
Did he get the Abyss Sphere?
Yeah, I think he targeted the Abyss Sphere and then he chained it to get the Abyss Lind, Abyss Pike.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I can definitely understand what Huang was going for there, because at that point he was up a little bit, he had pretty good game positioning, and he just wanted to simplify, like just get variables out of the game. But yeah, backfired. As it can when your opponent's playing Abyss Sphere.
We haven't actually talked a little bit about Game 3 yet, where Shen was able to win the match. That felt a little bit more one-sided than the other games.
Debunk's really good.
Yeah,
Debunk's really a great card. And it was pretty much all downhill from that very early Debunk.
Yet alone, I'm sorry to cut you off, Matthew.
No problem.
But highlight 3 was very interesting to a lot of people, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but let's go to highlight 3, if you will. That move right there when he flipped the armor, and it resolved. How did you feel about that?
Sitting there on the opposite side of a Gearga player and watching that armor flip up and not having an answer to it, it's kind of like a sickening feeling. And then you immediately scout your hand and see, actually, have I got a way of dealing with that next turn? Because that's just going to keep happening.
That right there, even when, if you look at both players' posture, it was very subtle. it just shows that the Gigia with the Gigia deck can perform even with the strong back row. The minute the armor goes off, it will indeed start a lot of moves. And the same is true for Mermails. The same is true for Mermails.
The support to pull these combos off in the middle of your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
Catching them unawares and disrupting entire turns.
It's that level of disruption on the opponent's turn that makes that deck what it may be, or at least what some of the German players want it to be in this tournament.
Yeah, as again, still surprised Mermails here, and I'm very interested in the Moon Glacier choice.
Yeah.
Especially if your most anticipated matchup is Infernity. I don't feel like I want to take cards away from their hand or try and get to the late game.
We were talking about that, and we're trying to calculate which matchups you're going to side out those Moulin Glacier, that Moulin Glacier in for game 2 and 3. Definitely worked here, and a good game 1 call when your deck is missing several cards due to the unique shape of the F&L list here. But might not see a lot of game 2, game 3 play here. Do we have a clip for?
Soul Charge has to be one of the key cards in this week's event. And in saying that, it fits in all the decks. But as you mentioned earlier, Jason, Soul Charging for 5,000 life points. Let's take a look at that clip, highlight 4.
It's a pretty spectacular way to kick off the World Championship.
Yeah, we sat here and went, wait,
a Soul Charge for 5.
Oh, this is happening?
Yeah. Like, this is happening in
I'm all in.
game
Let's
1
do
of
this.
round 1. Let's see some action.
The other one. No, the guy has my highlights. I can't. This is better. Right there, you see? And it resolved.
And he doesn't place the cards like in monster zones either. He just kind of like pushes them out as if to say, so what's going to destroy all of these?
Yeah, he's expecting this, and then he's like, he's already going for the rank 3.
Yeah, he's already going for the Tri-Edge Levia.
Yeah, I believe that's his only free material that he would be going for.
When you Soul Charge for 5, like, the game should be over.
It is one way or the other.
I don't even think we've seen like Soul Charge for 5 in like the WCQ coverage, in any like YCSs since the release of that card. You just don't see it. But this is an extreme tournament, and it takes extreme measures to beat players of this level. I mean, they're so evenly matched. Like, nobody here is without the instincts and without the skill and without the practice of a champion, because this is a tournament of champions. So you see people pulling out all the stops in matches like these, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes that happens.
But even though we can't take all the credit away from some of the older cards in the game, because if you can remember, there's a Synchro that came out and was very, very dominant in the way that when it comes out, it forced out a card. Do you remember?
In this match?
I'm talking about Black Rose. Let's go to highlight 5.
I'll just jump back to that last one. Losing that compulsory on Huang's side was very important. Became relevant later. So yeah, Black Rose.
Black Rose.
Ultimate pressure card forces action from the opponent lest they lose all of their personal belongings.
I always feel like my extra deck is like missing something if I don't have a Black Rose in there.
Yeah. It's such a psychological card. Like it demands answers so much more than almost anything else, especially like on that like level 8, level 7, level 6 threshold. Yeah. Like it's one thing to have to counter, like a Leo or something that much invested, but Black Rose is low investment. It's easy to make, especially when you're searching like the tuner for free, like Mermails will.
Yeah, when a bit design.
It's like I got this card for free. You figure it out.
When you're playing in a tournament that demands you to conduct an action that automatically requires a response, even when you saw Eugen summon the Megalo.
Yeah.
Special summon the Megalo just to clear way for Moon Glacier. Like, that right there shows that your plays have to be followed up with something consistently. Because you can't just play just free-handedly. It's not the way to play in a large-scale event like the World Championship.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, this is one of the most unforgiving tournaments of the year, if not the most unforgiving. We're playing 5 rounds of Swiss today, and that's it. We're cutting to top 8 after that. One false step here can put you out of this tournament. Some X and ones will make it, but very, very few will. So every single win here counts. Every single move here counts. Just one mistake can send you home.
But that's not saying that you can't make it to day 2 without an undefeated record, because I did it myself.
Oh yeah. Some X1s will make it, but
and
it's hard.
X2s, in some degrees and in some cases.
In very rare cases, that might be possible. Were you X2 when you made it?
Yes, I was.
You were?
Yes.
I did not know that.
No, I didn't know that, and I was there. I was on stage with you.
I was not there, so I have an excuse, but yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm just bringing to the light. But I'm just saying that to say you can't be discouraged, because the mistakes will happen. No one is perfect.
Yeah.
But you just have to, you have to feel confident in your deck. And our reigning world champion was that.
He showed up.
I gotta say, Shin-En Huang, pretty close to perfect. If you can be perfect, that definitely does help. And Shin-En Huang, last year too, guy plays like a machine.
Yeah, the very famous fist pump. I believe that was in the top 4.
Yes, the fist pump.
Let's go to highlight 6.
Yeah,
let's take a look.
See what we got next.
So both players' posture was very, very calm, cool, and collective. But this is where he was thinking about responding and making a follow-up play after that. And let's see what he does. Both players are still calm. He's trying to see where he wants to exceed into. This was the black strip of corn play.
Perfect answer for that wall, but was locking him out there.
And most people wouldn't remember to bring that card out.
Yeah, Shin-En Huang, very, very conscious of his range of answers. We see that a lot in Game 3, where he was just, made like 4, maybe 5 Ixie summons in a span of 2 turns. Very, very prescient of what he can do.
That black ship.
The burn from that black ship was also like what opened him up for the Cowboy too, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
That was the sheer moment where Cowboy opened up after the Giga Armor attack.
Yeah.
Which was the reason why he left it in attack mode.
I love that. I loved how he left the Gear Garment attack just in case he could use it to poke for game. So smart, so smart. As opposed to flipping it back down and next turn having to flip it up and then flip it down again, just get the search and then not having that attacker. Yeah.
Yeah. We got another clip here?
Yes, I would like to take it to clip. This happened in game 2. Let's take it to clip 8. Now, clip 8, this was the summon of the trap tricks to search out the bottomless trap hole.
Yeah.
A very, very strong opening.
Very strong.
And nevertheless, this was the ideal opening for the Giga matchup, other than the flip the armor. What do y'all guys think about that?
Yeah, that's knowing you're playing against Mermail. Setting the armor can be extremely weak if you get blown away by an Abyss Marksman, and can literally set you straight out, because not only have they blown away your armor, they're attacking you.
Yeah.
And having the trap tricks immediately searching for an answer to an opponent's card, also bringing you up to the 6 cards that your opponent will have available to them.
Yep.
It ended up changing Eugen's play to forcing him to trade off with the trap tricks on turn 2, which he had to do it, but it didn't look strong.
It certainly seemed bad at the time to be like effectively playing into a situation where Huang was going to have 1 more card. Personally, like I looked at that and I was like, that seems even better than a Gear Garmer opening. Do you guys feel that way too?
Watching that, yeah. In this matchup.
All in agreement.
Yeah. But on the matter of speaking about trading cards for cards and all that, did anybody pick up every time armor flipped, that segmented into strong following moments? Did you remember when the space traded for the space, or the space traded for the black Horn of Heaven, which opened up the Giga Gear?
Yeah.
And on speaking about that note, let's go to highlight 9. That right there was a very defining moment, because this card right now is limited to 1.
It's part of that 81% perfect opening, optimal opening percentage. But resolving that back when it was in 3, and it was just that Giga had such a strong opening. It was the most played deck at the European WCQ by far, because you just had so many good options going in on your first turn. To see what Eugen's.
There's no real fear when you open that card and then it resolves.
Yeah.
It just creates your gig on axis plays.
Yeah.
And it segments you into Abyss Dweller. And any access to a rank 4 when you're playing against a Mermail player.
Absolutely.
Is very strong.
And that's like, as soon as we saw that Mermelio hit the field, we were like, okay, well, he has to press into it, because if not, he's going to rank 4 and do either Abyss Dweller or something even worse that we can't imagine.
And Shin-En did the right thing and just did not use one of his using one of his set spell or trap cards to respond to the attack declaration or the whole attack in itself. There was no need to, and that shows the championship caliber that he is on.
Yeah. Very controlled, very
knows what losses to accept to present better opportunities for him. And the Mermail deck just doesn't like having no cards. It's all very combo-centric for multiple cards that you need to have. And so Chen picking up 3 cards whilst just trading away one of his opponents, you're just gonna run out and just be slammed.
Yep.
By a Sea of Exy monster.
Tim Tempo surprised me. Did it surprise you?
Yeah, we were there, and it forced the Black Horn of Heaven.
We were watching that, and we're like, okay, so he's got answer. What does he have next? Oh, he's got a 4th answer because he's got a Tempo. Why not? Sure, go for it.
See, the
Shin-En Huang with everything he could possibly want.
Yeah.
The thing that most players fail to realize is that when you're playing with a Mermail deck, they have a very strong beginning. They have a very, very strong mid-game. Yeah. I don't see the end game as much as I see the end game with Gigas. I see a mid and an end game with Gigas, and their beginning is okay. You know, they don't, and it's only okay when you don't open any search engine. You know.
Yep. Yeah. They have that setup period, sort of like Lightsworn, where they just need a couple turns to get going. They need to be able to set that Gear Armor or make the Traptrix Mermelio play and then make a Gear Armor play, in this case, and before they can actually start kicking out summons. Whereas it's totally viable for a player like Eugen to go second, look at his 6 cards, and just be like, all these go on the table now, and you leave the table. It's very explosive. It can go off very quickly, but at the same time, like, it has very basic defensive plays that something like the Infernity deck doesn't have, like these single card walls.
It's watching a Giga deck play is essentially like watching somebody load a really old age cannon going, just you wait 1 minute. I need to figure this out, but just give me some time. Hold on. Right, let's do this. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm showing up.
Yeah. And yeah, no, like you were saying too, Jarrell, like once the Mermail deck gets simplified in that late game, if it gets into top decking, like they have
Tidal.
They have Tidal, if we see it, which we didn't.
No. We saw it
like,
when he was gonna ditch it to the graveyard, but then he didn't.
Yeah, and then chose not to. Yeah, or like maybe the errant marksman attack, but you probably already searched your dragoons anyways, so really you got nothing. So.
And on that note, I would like to